I must begin with a warning. CHING CHONG CHINA GIRL is not to be read by convent girls not wearing their gloves. I'd like to thank my parents, my mother, Dorothy, and my father, Charles, not for my birth, but for their divorce, which catapulted me at 16 months into the challenging childhood which made me, for better or worse, what I am. The first Chinese divorce splashed across the Tasmanian truth. Women whispered as Dorothy approached. With bosoms puffed, they gaped at her from under the brims of their hats. Even those she'd thought of as friends disappeared into shops or scurried across the street, bringing Holdens and Hillmans screeching to a halt. She was beyond the pale. This was Hobart, not Hollywood. I thank my sister, Helene, for putting up with me, though I wish she'd stood up to me. I thank my late husband, John, for so much happiness, though I didn't expect him or Helene to depart so soon. I thank my family members, friends, colleagues, teachers, those in habit, those out of habit, superiors, inferiors, rogues, bullies, and all the other characters who inhabit these pages, from Hobart to Hong Kong, Singapore to Xi'an, London to Knoxville. I'm indebted to countless individuals and organizations, more than the many named in this book. In particular, Monash Asia Institute, RMIT University, and of course the ABC, in particular, ABC Books, for this fine production. I also wish to thank Readings and AsiaLink for assembling you here this evening. Today, I can step from my house in inner Melbourne onto the front veranda and hear and see passers-by, mostly speaking English, but sometimes Mandarin or Cantonese, or my ancestral dialect of Toishanese. But that hasn't always been so. The most asked question I've ever received, can anyone guess what it is? That's right. Where do you come from? So let me take you back to where I come from. Hobart, Tasmania. At my school, St. Mary's College, our history lessons began with William the Conqueror and the Battle of Hastings in 1066. We saw Tasmania as a little part of England, salted with white skins of Anglo-Celtic origin and lightly peppered by the 1950s with new Australians from continental Europe. The island's Aborigines had been exterminated, according to our textbooks. And at every event and at every film, we all rose from our seats for the anthem, God Save the Queen. When my mother broke into Chinese in front of my friends, I wanted to die. I withered with embarrassment. Anyone who spoke a language other than English aroused suspicion. People gaped as though watching freaks on show under the circus tent. Although I'm told I was fluent in Chinese until my Chinese-born grandmother died when I was 3. When I began school, Chinese became a hindrance. When another little 5-year-old said to me, "My mummy says I can't play with you because you're Chinese," I came to realize that being Chinese wasn't the best thing to be. Unlike my mother, who was daily tormented with CHING CHONG Chinamen in 1930s Hobart, at St. Mary's College in the 1950s, the taunting I received really didn't last all that long. The nuns kept things under control, and Helene and I were made to feel part of the school. When it came time for me to leave school and I wondered what to do, my mother's partner made a suggestion. Of course, the term partner didn't then exist for what was condemned as living in sin. Anyway, Rex, a foreign devil radio announcer, suggested I go to the Australian National University in Canberra to learn Chinese for a possible future in foreign affairs or the Chinese service of Radio Australia. I was horrified. I couldn't help my Chinese face. Everyone asked, "Where do you come from?" At least I could forestall the slowly enunciated, "And do you speak English?" by opening my mouth. I had to assimilate. Being Chinese made me peculiar enough. Why learn to speak Chinese? That's crazy, I said to Rex. Learning Chinese is the last thing I want. In 1974, multicultural SBS didn't exist and wouldn't begin for another 6 years with the Armenian Greek Australian newsreader George Denikian. I understand the ABC received a handful of racist mail from viewers, but I saw none of it. However, ABC top brass proved slow to defend me from internal attack. In 1978, the ABC Current Affairs was undergoing one of its periodic program changes under a new chief called Derek White. I felt so humiliated I couldn't tell anyone. Only that night at home did I unburden myself to John. "That's outrageous," he said. "You've got to tell the union." But apart from that, I spoke to no one. A week later, I slipped down the stairs of our block of flats in Queen's Road for the milk and morning papers. Imagine my horror when I saw, staring up at me from the counter of the milk bar, my own face on the front page of Truth. Victoria's top-selling weekly screamed, "Girl reporter complains. Race row at ABC, page 3. I turned to page 3. And there, on page 3, there's always more news in your truth. There's always a well-upholstered, a beautiful brunette, nude except for makeup, nail varnish, and a revealing cloth tied around her loins and knotted so as to draw the eye down to her pubic folds. The loveliest girls are in your truth. This one with the reputed racist Bruce Ruxton, president of the Return Services League and foe of Asian immigrants. He laid on the charm for me. When I interviewed him on his tirade against those who should go back to where they came from, he leant over to me when the cameraman was adjusting the lights and said, "I don't mean you, dear. You're one of us."